The possibility of alien life existing on other planets has always intrigued humans. Scientists and experts have long been striving to find clues indicating habitat for life in outer space. Although they have yet to succeed in finding conclusive evidence, the struggle continues as more and more space is mapped and explored through rovers and telescopes. However, a recent speech delivered by a professor of planetary and space science at Liverpool Hope University reinvigorated cosmic explorers' research and rendered them hopeful for finding something substantial. In this video, we'll tell you how this British scientist claims that Jupiter's moon Europa is home to otherworldly life. Jupiter has a long history of surprising scientists, dating back to 1610 when Galileo Galilei discovered the first moons outside Earth. That discovery altered our perception of the universe. To begin with, Jupiter, the fifth planet in line from the Sun, is by far the biggest planet in the solar system, more than twice as massive as all the other planets combined. 11 Earths could fit across the equator of Jupiter. It would be the size of a basketball if Earth were a grape. However, it lacks an Earth-like surface because it is a gas giant. It is probably only about the size of Earth if it has any solid inner core. Secondly, Jupiter orbits our Sun at a distance of 484 million miles or 5.2 astronomical units. Jupiter orbits the Sun in about 4,333 Earth days, or about 12 Earth years, known as a Jovian year. Jupiter's equator and the orbital planes of its moons are only 3 degrees tilted relative to Jupiter's orbital path around the Sun, whereas Earth is tilted 23.5 degrees. This means that Jupiter spins nearly upright, which means the planet, as well as Europa and Jupiter's other dozens of moons, do not have as extreme seasons as other planets. Each of the giant 4 planets in our solar system has a ring system. Jupiter's faint ring system was discovered in 1979 by the Voyager mission. The familiar stripes and swirls of Jupiter are actually cold, windy clouds of ammonia and water floating in a hydrogen and helium atmosphere. Jupiter has been visited by 9 spacecraft. 2 have orbited the gas giant and 7 have flown by. The most recent spacecraft, Juno, arrived at Jupiter in 2016. Jupiter's famous Great Red Spot is a gigantic storm larger than Earth that has been raging for hundreds of years. Hydrogen and helium make up the majority of Jupiter's atmosphere. There are over 75 moons orbiting around Jupiter. As far as we know, Jupiter cannot support life. However, some of Jupiter's moons may harbor life in the ocean beneath their surfaces. The best chance of finding current environments conducive to life beyond Earth lies in our solar system's moon, Europa. Europa is named after a woman who in Greek mythology was kidnapped by the god Zeus, also known as Jupiter in Roman mythology. The size of Europa, which has an equatorial diameter of 1,940 miles, is approximately 90% that of Earth's moon. Europa would therefore appear roughly the same size in the sky as our moon, but much, much brighter if it were to replace it. Due to the water ice that covers its surface, Europa reflects 5.5 times more sunlight than the moon. Europa orbits Jupiter at a distance of about 417,000 miles, which is itself 500 million miles or 5.2 astronomical units from the Sun. It takes 45 minutes for the solar light to reach Europa. According to scientists, a salty ocean with twice as much water as all of Earth's oceans combined is almost undoubtedly present beneath the icy surface of Europa. Additionally, scientists believe that Europa has an iron core and rocky mantle, just like Earth. Firm evidence suggests Europa's ocean is in contact with the rock. This is significant because 3 essential ingredients are needed for life as we know it: liquid water, a source of energy, and organic compounds to serve as the building blocks for biological processes. All 3 of these components may exist in Europa, and the ocean there may have been present for the entirety of the solar system, long enough for life to start and develop. As observed by ground-based telescopes, most of Europa's surface is water ice. Researchers have discovered compelling evidence that an ocean of liquid water or slushy ice lies beneath that ice crust. The 2 Voyager spacecraft first indicated that Europa might have liquid water in 1979 when they passed through the Jovian system. Since then, the Earth's ground-based telescopes, the Galileo spacecraft, and space telescopes have raised scientists' confidence in the existence of an ocean on Europa. Europa barely has 1/4 of Earth's diameter and is slightly smaller than the Earth's moon. The same side of Europa always faces Jupiter because it rotates once on its axis and orbits Jupiter once every 3.5 days on Earth. Mostly solid water ice covers the surface of Europa. It has fractures running through it. These long linear fractures crisscross the water ice surface of Europa. The surface of this moon appears to be no more than 40 to 90 million years old, which is young in geologic terms, based on the small number of visible craters. Callisto, another of Jupiter's moons, is thought to be a few billion years old. A reddish-brown material is found all along Europa's many fractures and in splotchy patterns across its surface. Its composition is unknown, but it most likely contains salts and sulfur compounds that have been infused with the water ice and enhanced by radiation. This surface composition could reveal information about the moon's potential as a habitable world. From 1995 to 2003, NASA's Galileo spacecraft investigated the Jupiter system and made numerous flybys of Europa. Strange pits and domes discovered by Galileo indicate that Europa's ice layer may be slowly stirring and convecting due to heat from underneath. Many of Europa's long linear fractures are only a few kilometers wide, but they can be thousands of kilometers long. While some of these fractures appear to have pulled apart into broad bands of numerous parallel fractures, others seem to have built up into hundreds of meters tall ridges. Galileo also discovered areas known as chaos terrain, which featured broken, blocky landscapes covered in an enigmatic reddish substance. In 2011, researchers looking at Galileo data proposed that chaos terrains might be locations where the surface collapsed over ice-encased lakes with a lens-like shape. Although the oxygen atmosphere on Europa is far too thin for humans to breathe, NASA reported in 2013 using the Hubble Space Telescope that scientists had discovered evidence suggesting that Europa may be actively venting water into space. This would indicate that the moon is still experiencing geological activity today. Europa's expansive and unbelievably deep ocean is regarded as the best place to look for life outside of Earth. Europa's ocean may even be leaking into space, allowing a passing spacecraft to sample it without touching down on the moon's surface. The water plumes could be studied by future spacecraft in a manner similar to how the Cassini sampled the plume of Saturn's moon Enceladus, if confirmed by subsequent observations. However, more recent observations from telescopes like the Hubble Space Telescope and a reanalysis of some data from the Galileo spacecraft have suggested that it's possible that thin plumes of water are being ejected 100 miles above Europa's surface. The Cassini spacecraft accomplished its feat at Saturn's moon Enceladus, which is known to have an ocean spraying into space. If the plumes do exist and if their source is connected to Europa's ocean, a spacecraft could travel through the plume to sample and analyze it from orbit, essentially studying the moon's ocean. Even if Europa isn't spewing free samples into space, a 2018 study found that oceanic samples could still end up frozen into the moon's ice shell at the point where the ice meets the ocean. Warmer and less dense ice would rise as the ice shell bent and flexed due to tides, carrying ocean samples to the surface, where a spacecraft could analyze them remotely using, among other things, infrared and ultraviolet instruments. Scientists could then investigate the material's makeup to see if Europa's ocean could support life in some form. While the Galileo spacecraft was in the Jupiter system in the 1990s, no plumes were observed then. A NASA-led international research team reported in November 2019 that it had successfully observed water vapor directly for the first time above Europa's surface. The team measured the vapor using a spectrograph at the Keck Observatory in Hawaii that analyzes the infrared light the planet's atmospheres emit or absorb to determine their chemical composition. There are no moons orbiting Europa. Although some moons in the solar system may have once had rings, Europa does not currently have any. Numerous spacecraft have visited Europa and more missions are scheduled. The public generally supports space programs because alien hunting is a hopeful endeavor. Despite not having discovered any yet, the search for extraterrestrial life is a compelling reason for launching into space. In a recent speech, Professor Monica Grady of Liverpool Hope University's Planetary and Space Science Department gave all cosmic explorers a colossal dose of this hope. Although there is no evidence to support it, she is confident that there is a life of some kind on Jupiter's moon Europa. Grady speculates that this life might be more complex than simple bacteria, possibly possessing intelligence akin to an octopus and likely existing in the frigid waters beneath the moon's ice sheets. Grady believes there is a strong possibility of undiscovered life in our galaxy. She hypothesizes that some underground organisms, most likely bacteria, may be hiding out in Mars's deeper caves and hollow regions. They might be obtaining water from the ice that is buried very deep. In an address in February 2020, she remarked, "When it comes to the prospects of life beyond Earth, it's almost a racing certainty that there's life beneath the ice on Europa." She opines that 390 million miles from Earth, life forms on Europa might be more advanced than Martian bacteria, possibly possessing the intelligence of an octopus. Where on this moon of Jupiter would the creatures reside? Somewhere beneath the very thick layer of ice, which reaches a depth of 15 miles in some places. And it is plausible that there is liquid water beneath all of that ice, shielding whatever life there is from radiation and the impact of asteroids and other crashing objects. The potential hydrothermal vents on Europa's ocean floor increase the likelihood of life there. The Earth's vents are the birthplaces of life. Grady believes that the conditions for life need not be unique to our solar system, and that, statistically speaking, we should be able to find them as we investigate other stars and galaxies. The professor declared, "I think it's highly likely there will be life elsewhere, and I think it's highly likely they'll be made of the same elements." Grady refrained from predicting when we might make contact with extraterrestrials because of the likely enormous distances involved. Most of the grains of sand are made up of silicates, but there are also small patches of carbon in it. She continued that carbon is extraterrestrial because it contains nitrogen and hydrogen, which are not terrestrial signatures. Grady notes that this tiny sample gives us an idea of how complex the record of extraterrestrial material really is, and that it demonstrates that meteorites, asteroids, and interstellar dust struck it. Europa has undoubtedly come up in discussions about extraterrestrial life in the past. Scientists refer to Europa as an ocean world because decades of observations indicate an ocean beneath its sheets of ice, as stated by NASA. NASA made the first official confirmation of water vapor there in 2019. In a report published in the Nature Astronomy Journal on November 18, 2019, NASA planetary scientist Lucas Paganini and his team found that Europa was releasing enough water at a rate of 5,202 pounds per second to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool quickly. Paganini said, "For me, the interesting thing about this work is not only the first direct detection of water above Europa, but also the lack thereof within the limits of our detection method." However, scientists also discovered that water infrequently appears, at least in amounts large enough to detect from Earth. Does this moon have tiny octopus extraterrestrials swimming around, considering it may have the ideal conditions for life? Future research and time will definitely unfold the mysteries the universe holds within itself.